Crypto. All the crypto news in one place.
I'm not the first guy to say this, but I think really 2025 and now into 2026, because the Clarity Act has been pushed to early 2026, is our 1996 moment for crypto versus the internet. Because back in 1996, a piece of legislation passed. It was called the Telecommunications Act that really deregulated and offered just basic guidelines to allow the internet to thrive in 1996. And a lot of people back then thought, okay, 1996, we've had a good run.
So Tom Lee, you know, he is one of the biggest Ethereum and crypto bulls in general. He's buying incredible amounts of Ethereum. And he is also the CEO of Fundstrat. So it is this guy, by the way. He is usually posting these tweets where he is buying incredible amounts of Ethereum to Bitmain, which is the largest treasury company for Ethereum. Well, his company Fundstrat released a report saying that they believe that Bitcoin is going to go down towards 60 to 65K, Ethereum to 1.8 to 2000K, and Solana to 50 to 75. Now, this comes just moments after Tom Lee stated at Binance Week that Ethereum at 3,000 is severely undervalued. He previously predicted Ethereum would reach $15,000 by the end of 2025. How wrong this was, guys.
The price for these clients to get this newsletter is $249 per month. I guess Wu is paying for that. That's why you can't see it everywhere, because you got to pay for it. Anyhow, in the internal client said a significant correction is expected in the first half of the year, which completely contradicts Tom Lee's public statement. So behind the scenes is like, yeah, we're going to have a big, huge drop. And public, he's like, it's going to be awesome. The internal report sets target prices at Bitcoin 60 to 65,000. Again, this is the internal report. Publicly, he said in December, it'll be 250,000. Then he revised it and said, you know what, we're still going to see between 150, around 150 towards the end of January. Now he's more saying is like, yeah, there's too much headwinds and it's going to be even lower than that. So in this report, $60,000 for Bitcoin, that's quite a drop.
Bitcoin's apparent demand shrinks, signals new bear market. Oh no, bad news during the holidays? Come on. I thought we were hoping for the Santa rally. But, for every analyst that says we're in a bear market or heading to a bear market, there's another analyst that says, we're in the upswing and we'll hit 100 grand by the end of the year. Who knows? Multiple factors, including ETF outflows, contracting demand, and price falling below key support levels, indicate the start of a BTC bear market.
And obviously the times are not super interesting in crypto, but as you know, historically, these are always the best times for you guys to invest when there's cheap prices around, when there's no interest in crypto, when the fear index is still very low, guys. It's still very low. People have no interest in crypto right now. This is probably a very good chance for accumulating at these prices.
We do have, it's almost $24 billion worth of Bitcoin options expiring on the last day of this year, which is in just 1 week, less than 1 week. You have $24 billion worth of Bitcoin and $4 billion worth of Ethereum. So this is massive. Now, what is the max pain point? So the max pain point in which most people are going to lose money is if Bitcoin closes at 96K and Ethereum at 3.1. So we have to keep track of this because whoever has been buying these options, they are going to try to cause the markets to have a big swing so that they make the most amount of profits on this day when the options actually expire. So that's why I'm saying be prepared for some volatility here moving towards the end of the year.
I always like to cover stories about self-custody. And this is a good one. I didn't even see this one earlier. The scammer sent a small dust amount to the victim's transaction history, causing the victim to copy the address and send $50 million to the scammer's address. 50 million in what, I wonder? Tether. A crypto user lost $50 million in U.S. Tether after falling for an address poisoning scam.
So you have Chris Beamish, who is he's the analyst at Glassnode. He's also telling us that the average price, the cost basis for the people that have been buying the ETFs, it is at around $84,000. So this is important to keep track of, because if the ETF buyers continues to see losses here, and if we go below the average price of the people that have been buying the ETFs, spot Bitcoin ETFs throughout the year, that could cause some stress in the market as well.
When is this freaking boring bear market finally going to end? Well, bear markets usually take around 12 months of time, right? And whereas I believe it is very likely that we are going to see one last capitulation, I think most people are going to miss the boat. Many people screaming for those 50, 60, 65,000 US dollar lows for Bitcoin might be missing the boat. This bull market was extremely underwhelming, and when a bull market is underwhelming, the bear market is most likely going to be underwhelming. The more bullish a bull market, the more crazy and brutal the shakeout has to be. If the bull market is quite underwhelming, we should not expect too much of a bear market as well.
Bitcoin isn't that sexy to the average person, but we saw how retail flocked to gold. It went up, I think, 10 trillion or maybe 9 trillion in a couple days. Like, it was crazy. People thought gold was dead. No, they were just waiting for the narrative to hook. It had sort of bullish consolidation for months and months and months and months, and finally FOMO into it. If that can happen in gold, Bitcoin's price could double overnight. That's just 2 trillion. I think it's very realistic that Bitcoin, which I believe is a better gold, it's more scarce, it's more transferable, it transcends time and space. I think that can at least get to 1/3 of gold.
I don't want to be only the one that brings the bad news here. I don't want to be the guy that, oh, you're always so bearish, blah, blah, blah. No, I've been super bullish on Bitcoin. But clearly, I believe in the Bitcoin 4-year cycle until it's proven otherwise, right? And I do think that if this signal is clearly going to emerge again, it is something to take very seriously.
Contraction in the ISM PMI for manufacturing is literally the longest on history. It's never contracted for this long before. It's why the 4-year cycle may very well be broken. And if the 4-year cycle is broken, which we'll find out over the next few months, we're either going to have a straight on 4-year cycle, buy the dip and at 40K on BTC or 50K on BTC on October 2026, or we get a new high in the next 3 or 4 months.
And a big change here is that if we're looking at the demand on the 30-day change, we have seen a slight little flip here on the most recent dip here, that we start to see that, yes, accumulation was returning, but now it seems to be that demand is once again fading. So this is, of course, a little bit more of a bearish thing here. Also, we're seeing that the Coinbase premium is going negative again here, which means that demand from the United States is also definitely not here as of this moment of time here. So there is not strong accumulation ongoing on Bitcoin right now. And that definitely, of course, suppresses the Bitcoin price action. And ultimately, I still am looking at this horizontal consolidation phase, because the moment Bitcoin is either going to be breaking below support or break above resistance, which the resistance is exactly the yearly open candle, I do think that is, of course, where the next direction for Bitcoin is truly going to get called.
Taking a quick look at the Bitcoin dominance chart on the daily time frame, and in the imminent short term over the last 1 day, we've seen a very, very slight little pullback, but overall the shorter term price structure is looking more bullish than it is bearish here on the daily time frame. We technically have higher lows already formed and now higher highs in the price chart on the Bitcoin dominance chart here on the daily time frame.
Possibly we could fall back over to 80,000, maybe even back down to 75,000. And what you could see happen is, if that's a gradual movement, RSI on the daily chart dropped so low during the original $80,000 drop, you could see some bullish RSI divergence form just like this. If Bitcoin moving into January, maybe MSCI has a decision or something, and we have a bunch of fear of that, and that drops us down to 75, but we don't see the RSI drop all the way down to 22 as it was, then you may end up seeing some bullish RSI divergence form here, and then maybe that's how we end up getting to 100,000.
So this is something that we need to pay attention to, which I'll talk about in just a moment, alongside Ethereum, which is continuing to play out this short-term bullish signal, while the price of XRP just now officially confirms this new signal in the shorter term.
We can see that we already broken below the EMA ribbon, which is, of course, a support level that literally held us on for about over 1,000 days here. This level holds us as support for over 1,000 days. And if we're looking back, for example, at the previous bear market, here we held on towards it, but the moment we broke below it, and especially over here, you can see it more clearly on this chart right here. You can see whenever the EMA is going to flip So you can see over here when it flipped. So basically when it flips here, which is approximately over here, the slow moving averages are going to cross the long moving averages. It basically gives you a confirmation that there's going to be a more bearish market going to come here. And for example, this happened in April 2022. We had that negative crossover. And basically after that negative crossover, Bitcoin went in towards a significant downtrend here.
So, did you enjoy the app? Let me know in the comments.